going to go ahead and get us started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Reedy's Reflect. This is a virtual student panel from the Reed College Office of Admission. And our goal for the next hour is to hear all about the Reed student experience. We have a couple of very fine, real current Reedies here today to tell you all about their life at Reed. And I will be here as your moderator. So I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Maddie. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm an assistant dean of admission here at Reed. And I also happen to be a Reed alum, though I will rely on our student workers to tell us all about how Reed is nowadays. Jojo, could I ask you to go ahead and just give us a brief introduction, maybe your year, major, those kind of basics?
Sorry, I was typing in the chat instead of unmuting. My name is Jojo. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Oakland, California, and I'm a senior linguistics major this year. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And Spencer, can you introduce yourself?
Well, hi, I'm Spencer. I am a junior linguistics major from New York City.
All right, linguistics, very well represented today. That's awesome. And we are expecting one more panelist to join us, but he had class. So, oh, he's here. I'll promote him to panelist. One moment, please. Hooray. Go
Hi.
ahead.
Hello.
Can you tell us your name, your year, and everything, please?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sajid. I'm a senior. I'm a math major. I'm an intern for the admissions office.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Sajid, Jojo, and Spencer. And thank you, all of you, for attending this virtual student panel. I'm going to kick us off with a few questions, but our goal is for you all to be able to ask the questions that are on your minds as well. I know we have people in attendance today who are at various points in their college search, in the application process, and a good number of students who have been admitted to Reed. So congratulations to all of you. And no matter where you are in the process, there's a lot that we want to share, that we want to help you with as you get to know Reed and college in general. So as you're listening, as you think of questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. You can DM me privately if you prefer. But yeah, we want to get to as much as we can in the next hour. All right. We're going to start off backing up a little bit. We have two seniors and a junior in this group. I would love to hear from all of you, maybe how you found out about Reed and what ended up bringing you here to campus. I'm going to pick on Sajid to start.
Um, Sorry, I'm a little late. I was in class and then I ran back to my dorm.
You're
Just
doing
to give a
good.
little more introduction,
Yeah.
I I study math and I'm also interested in statistics, computer science. I love to read poetry and have like a little bit of interest in art. So it's sort of gives you an idea about like why like Reed is was an appealing school to me because of the way the curriculum is structured. It gives you a way to explore um, a variety of fields and not only like focus on one thing. And that was perhaps like one of the reasons I like ended up choosing Reed is that this emphasis on a broad education.
Mhm. Very cool. Yeah, that combination of statistics and poetry is quintessentially liberal arts, I'd say. So that makes sense. How about you, Spencer?
I know for me that at least in the college process, I came across Reed because it fit all my like generic check boxes of what I wanted in a college. I knew that I wanted a small liberal arts education, but I'm from New York and I did not want to leave a city. So the fact that Portland is a city and Reed is so close, in fact, to downtown Portland and just in Portland in general was so appealing to me. And then when I came here and I met people and I got to know the atmosphere of the school, I fell in love with like who the people who come, and I think it's really a lovely community.
Thank you. That's wonderful. How about you, Jojo?
I don't remember how I originally heard about Reed, but I decided to come after visiting campus, and I had a really great tour guide who had been a former readie, and he was so like honest about um, I don't know, like he wasn't trying to sell me on Reed. He was just being really honest about it. And in that way, he did sell me on Reed. And I really love like this, like Spencer was saying, like the small, like liberal arts environment and getting to like know my professors and my classmates really well.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, and that's what we're hoping to offer to these students today, right? Um, in that vein, I'm curious, what has surprised you all about Reed, from when you were first looking at colleges to now being, for two of the three of you in your last year here? Anyone is welcome to jump in.
I know for me, it was I was surprised with, like, I knew that I would have connections with my professors, but it is truly like how much my professors care about me beyond just the work I produce, but like they want to see me succeed. And I have had like very real conversations with them that are not about classwork and like be like, oh, hey, I'm struggling to find a job for the summer. And then one of my professors says, hey, can I write you a letter of recommendation? And that is not an experience I was expecting to have to be able to build that kind of relationship with my professors. But it is very common here, and I love having that kind of relationship with my professors.
Really special. Jojo, Sajid.
I would say the thing that surprised me most was the other students. Reed says that all of our students are very like engaged intellectually, and I didn't really know what that meant until I got here, I think. And what it has meant is that I'm in classes with people who like really want to be there and really want to learn the things we're doing. And so like we'll be talking about our classes outside of class or at lunch or, you know, even if Spencer and I are in different classes, we're going to be talking about them because we're both ling majors and like I want to hear what Spencer's learning. Spencer wants to hear what I'm learning. And it's like genuine interest and curiosity. And that's been like so wonderful to have in a college.
Um, for me, I think the part which was mostly surprising was the the amount of um, the quirkiness within the type of things that people are interested in. I know one of my friends, Esta, and she's a classics major, and she spent, I think, her last summer um, digging 18th century graves in northern Italy, and like we've been talking about the trajectory that took because she was interested in studying graves or the ethnography of graves, if that's the right word. Okay, and because she speaks Italian and she also has a specialization in Greek, it was very convenient for her to like collect a broad array of scholar, or at least communicate with a broad array of scholars, and actually combine her interests into this wonderful project. And I think you could study classics or you could study archaeology, but to be able to do or take on such a big project and participate and like completely outside the country, it takes certain amount of, I think, strength and creativity. And I think that's the part I'm always surprised about, like how much, to the extent people would go um, to to achieve their goals, whether they're academic or just passion.
I love that. Yeah, encouraging those niche, no matter how niche those academic interests are, is something we really value. Yeah. Speaking of academics, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what the classroom experience has been like for all of you. Could you maybe share a favorite class you've had or a favorite project that you've worked on in your time so far at Reed? I see Spencer going to unmute. Yes.
Um, so got to take a really fun course last spring. I actually took two very fun courses, but the one I'm going to focus on is one of the linguistics courses I took, which was basically me and a small group of other students uh, did an actual research project with for sociolinguistics, which is the like studying of why you use language and like the what it means about what you say. Is like the short answer for what sociolinguistics is. And then we did a project together with alongside the professor, and we then presented that project at this national sociolinguistics conference that was held this year in Florida. And it was really nice to be like treated as like a fellow researcher and not just as a student learning from the professor, but like learning how to do things alongside her and being part of that like experience and research project.
It's very cool.
I was just talking to Maddie earlier about my Arabic class, which I've been taking Arabic for 2 years at Reed. And Arabic is sort of a pilot program at Reed. It's pretty new, there's not a lot of students. So my class currently has 3 people, and we meet 6 hours a week to practice Arabic, and we have a great time. We know each other super well, not going to conferences and presenting research or anything, but like it's a good time to show up and have that like routine of seeing the same people every day and like learning Arabic, but also like just like doing it with friends, even though I didn't know them before we started taking Arabic. So that's also been a really great time for me.
Maddie, could you repeat the second part of your question? Sorry.
A favorite class that you took or a favorite project that you've worked on?
Um, um, I've taken a bunch of math classes, and I feel like I don't want to talk about math right now. I'll talk about an English class which I really liked. Um, the class was called Decolonization and Novel in Africa, and it was taken with Kritish Bhandari. And the title, the class sort of centered around the and how that was sort of reflected within the literary scene in Africa. Um, it thoroughly challenged the Western perspective on what the geographical and the border notions of Africa is, how people in the Western media talk about Africa, and how African authors sort of represent themselves within the general notion of the African sphere. Um, it was a wonderful class because Kritish is a phenomenal professor, and he's South Asian. I'm South Asian too. So that made the connection. And the best part about the class was Kritish was really good at making conversations happen. Like it's not like he was throwing off like hot takes every once in a while, but he was making sure that the group discussions were actually like meaningful because he was very well prepared. He had like questions prepared ahead of time, and he would like give out handouts even before we got our reading lists so that we could like prepare ahead of time. But I think for me, it was really interesting and exciting because I come from Bangladesh. I'm an international student, and Bangladesh had its own decolonization process. We are still going through a significant political change and cultural improvement, or whatever that means. But for me, that was like a personal experience into understanding how literature sort of can combine itself with the greater power struggle of the times. And I really loved the class.
That's awesome. Thank you. Great. Since we have two seniors here, I do have to ask if you'd be willing to share what your thesis work is on. For those of you who don't know, every Reed senior has to write a thesis, which is a year-long independent research project. So today's the first day of our spring semester, which means thesis time is halfway over.
I can go first.
Okay.
My thesis is a syntax thesis. I was inspired when I was studying abroad in Spain last year, and my syntax professor made like an offhanded comment about how you can't say a sentence like, I covered us with a blanket. And so now, and then half the class was like, that sounds fine to me. And the other half of the class was like, no, that's horrible. And so my thesis is why? Is it good or bad? And this sort of phenomenon of like pronoun overlap where we have I and us or you and y'all or we and me, etc. Um, is not very well studied, particularly in Spanish and particularly in Latin American dialects that don't have vosotros, which is the plural second person pronoun. So my thesis so far has been a lot of research on like what people have already done, and then over the break I was collecting survey responses from Latin American Spanish speakers to get their opinions on some sentences, and now I can move forward with my analysis of them.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing, Jojo.
I usually give people this warning that you don't want to ask me about my thesis as I go on. Like, go rumble. But okay, since you already did, my thesis is in graph theory. As I said, I'm a math major. Graphs are, so I drew a picture. This is a graph. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, that's a graph. A graph has dots or nodes that are connected by edges, and we can like really connect or construct a graph right now, like within the five panelists we have. That is, five of us are nodes, and we can draw connections between each other depending on how well we know each other. So on a scale between 0 and 1, if, say, for example, I know Maddie 50%, and I know Jojo 70%, and I know Spencer 30%. Uh, no, I know Spencer more than that. But so graphs are incredibly useful in network science. And there is this notion within mathematics that if you want to study an object, you might as well study how efficiently you can store that object. And broadly speaking, that's what my thesis is about. My thesis concerns how we can take a graph and create a simpler representation of it, because graph seems like a very graphic object. It stays in however many dimensions you live in. But how can you store a graph within a computer with as less memory as possible? And I study the trade-off. Like, I give off this much information, or I give off this much information about the graph. How much am I losing in terms of the representation, and vice versa? If you want more, I write a blog, and I have a blog post on my thesis. Love to share it if anyone's interested.
Very cool. Thanks for offering, Sajid, and for educating us on graph theory. Um, I think I'm going to ask one more question about academics, and then I want to pivot to some fun stuff. A few of you have touched on the relationships and the opportunities that have arisen from having such close contact with your professors. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it's like in your day-to-day life as a student here, what those relationships with professors look like? Spencer, you didn't get to answer the last one. If you want to take this one.
I mean, I kind of touched on it a little bit already, just because I have had professors who I actively look for their courses, even if it has nothing to do with really my interests. I ended up taking ancient Greek because I really wanted time with this professor who I really enjoyed, which is not like the most sane thing to do because basically the like system for like all languages we learn is how Jojo explained it. So it's like 5 hours a week, and I spent 5 hours a week with this in a class that I not necessarily didn't want to take, but isn't something I had to or was like really passionate about taking. I just really wanted to spend time with this professor, and she made the course so fun, and I loved learning ancient Greek. Even though I didn't really go into it thinking, man, I really want to learn ancient Greek. But I think like that's kind of just the case with a lot of people is there's going to be a professor that is so wonderful, and you're going to be like, I'm going to follow this person until I die. And it's in part because of just how passionate the professors are about teaching here. And it's always so exciting to see them like respond to us as like people they can work with and not just pass on knowledge, but can grow themselves with us.
Also, in the linguistics department, we're very small. There's only three professors. So I know them all very well because one of them is my academic advisor, one of them is my thesis advisor, and the other one is my research advisor. And so I literally work with all three of them. And the linguistics department is really close knit. So this Wednesday we have a linguistics movie night at one of the professors' houses. At the beginning of the year, we had a dinner party at another one of the professors' houses. So like not only have I gotten to know my professors really well, but like I've met their spouses and their children. So it's also like making time outside of academics to like grow that community within your department. That's also really wonderful.
Um, so I have this one story. So one time, the math department and the CS department, sometimes like the physics folks like join for, we have this annual hike. It's a pretty short hike, and one time I was too busy and I couldn't like make it to the hike, so because I had to go groceries. And I was getting back from groceries on my bike, and I saw that people are getting on the cars and the buses, and they were about to leave. So I like sped through so that like people don't see me. Otherwise, it'd be a little embarrassing. But anyways, I was like speeding, and like, something you shouldn't do is like don't or something. Yeah, something you shouldn't do is don't speed when you have a lot of groceries in both of your arms. And I fell, and all my groceries were like everywhere on the street, and like right behind me was my academic advisor, and she was the person I was trying to hide from. So she was in her red car, and she got out and she helped me like gather all my stuff. And so it was a Saturday, and on Monday she sent me an email like, "Hey, come visit me in in my office." And I was a little scared that I was trying to escape from this person, and she came. But I had a jam in my grocery bag, and it was a glass jar, so it spilled all over, so I couldn't like get it back. But she made me apricot jam because I spilled my jam and couldn't have it. I was so happy, and the jam was great. That's what you guys are thinking, but I think that tells you a little bit about like the kind of relationship people have with their professors on this campus.
That totally jogged my memory. One of my favorite read stories is about one of my professors literally putting a tire on my car because I got a flat on the way to his house for a dinner. I didn't know how to put my spare on. And he came out in his like Tiva sandals and fixed it for me. Yeah, very emblematic of the general feeling here. All right. Well, we can always circle back to academics, classroom dynamics, and professors, but I'd love to talk a little bit more about your lives at Reed outside of the classroom. Maybe just start by telling us what you're involved in on campus outside of your classes. You all work for the admission office. We got that part. Spencer, what else are you up to on campus?
I also work for community safety, which is where I'm currently at because I really like having my own little office. So I'm currently there. Uh, so yeah, I am somebody who works a lot, and that is something I enjoy doing. So I am taking 4 classes and 2 jobs. Um, I work for the admissions office, which is why I'm here. And then I do a bunch of like paper filing for our campus safety. And if campus safety questions come up, I'm more than happy to answer them. Uh, Outside of like that mess, I've worked on our school yearbook, which is just for the seniors, and it's really sweet and really fun to do. Uh, I'm not working on it this year. Sorry, Sajid and Jojo. No answers about what's going on with your year. Um,
Nope.
uh, I play pool. There's a pool hall on campus. Pool is very fun
Mhm.
and has been it's a really good place to build community on campus because it basically is like, oh, I could be a freshman linguistics major and I'll run into a senior physics major who I would never meet any other way except for the fact that we both ended up playing pool together and then we became friends. And I really like that as a space because it like allows for that like intersectionality of different years.
Spencer, it looks like you're breaking up a little bit, so I'm going to let somebody else take over. Go ahead,
Um,
Sajid.
I can go. Besides studying all the time, right?
Yeah.
Um, I so for my freshman year, both the semesters of during my freshman year, I worked for the campus newspaper, which is called the College Quest. And I was a writer for the first semester, and I was an editor for the second semester. I still wrote for them, and I did small pieces here and there for the newspaper. The I don't work for them officially, but once in a while, I'll send them some hot stories around there that I've been collecting from everywhere. I have my like wide network of sources that I collect stories from. But when I'm not doing that, I like to run, and the campus really makes a very good spot to run um, for two different reasons. The hills are not too bad. That's my hot take, you know. So they're gradual, they don't hurt you that much, as opposed to some of the ones that are outside. So I love doing that. I love to run in the canyon. I've also started doing calisthenics so calisthenics is close to gymnastics, but it's not exactly gymnastic. It involves like certain physical movements with your hands and your legs. And there's a small group of people on campus who also do that. So we meet once in a while and like help each other or watch each other's forms. And it's generally a small group of people who are slightly awkward, but we love to do our stuff. Um, Jojo and I like to cook. We host dinner parties. Jojo can talk about it.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm cooking with Sajid in my free time. I'm also part of the Fiber Arts Club, so I spend probably too much time knitting, um, given that I should be working on my thesis. Um, I also have had many jobs on campus because, like Spencer said, they're very fun. Because you're just working with all of your friends. Like Spencer, Sajid, and I are also friends outside of this. And uh, so I've worked as a math tutor, a course assistant. I've had other jobs. Oh, I'm a research assistant for one of the linguistics professors, and I was also part of the volleyball club. And just I don't know, like I feel like just meeting up with friends for dinner. I also go to all of the Spanish house events on Wednesday nights to practice my Spanish, and that's where I met some of the contacts for my thesis. So I appreciate them so much. And yeah, so I'm always busy doing something.
For all the hours you spend on campus, there's always more ways to fill them. And you named a lot of really fun ones. I did just want to pause on the Spanish house. If you don't know, Reed has several language houses where students can live. The expectation is to live in language immersion, and you have scholars in the house with you who are from a country where that's the native language. So I like to say it's a great way to prepare for studying abroad or keep up your skills when you come back. The Spanish house is definitely the biggest one on campus, but there are 5 or 6 other ones as well. All right. Thinking outside of the boundaries of Reed's campus, can you tell us a little bit about your experience in Portland over the past few years? What do you like to do? What have you learned about Portland that surprised you?
Okay, I'm gonna pull the New Yorker move of I was told there's mass transit. It's not the subway, but it still works, but it's less convenient than I would enjoy it to be. Despite that fact, I really enjoy that there is public transport around near campus. There's basically a bus stop or two on every block surrounding the campus. So, as somebody who cannot drive and passenger princesses a lot, when I can't do that, I greatly enjoy being able to just take the bus. Like, if I'm not in the mood to walk to Safeway, it's a 5 minute bus ride or it's like a 20-minute walk. And I like the walkability as well. That how easy it is to get off campus is like so underrated. Because I don't think we talk about it quite enough just in general, because it is so easy because everything is either in walking distance or bus distance, or if you have a friend who has a car, they'll take you further. But everything you could need really is like nearby, whether that be like a grocery store, a drugstore, like there's like a Mart which has like furniture and stuff around. So I like how accessible everything is, and it doesn't feel like I need to make a day of it to go out and do stuff.
Also, Portland is like, there's a lot of stuff happening in Portland every weekend, farmers markets, there's the Saturday market, museums, the zoo, parks. I've never been like, oh my God, there's nothing to do. I'm also from somewhat of a city. And so I somewhat, because it's next to San Francisco, so it's hard to compare from Oakland. But I I feel like there's always a lot going on. Also, it's a very beautiful city. Like just yesterday, I was up at Mount Tabor. Really great views and good trees. I love good trees.
We got a lot of those.
I was going to talk about Mount Tabor, Georgia took it. But anyways, I'll talk about the riverfront park. Um, so right by it's by the Williamette River, right?
Mhm.
I really love the Selwood Riverfront Park. Um, it's a very pleasant spot. If you, I'm not exactly sure about the current status of the park, but I'm pretty sure when the last time I was there, the water was clean and it was during one of the summers.
Yeah,
And
people swim there. Yeah, yeah.
okay, okay,
It's 10 minutes from campus in a great neighborhood of Portland, and it's a really beautiful park and great views,
exactly,
even if you're
exactly.
not in the water. Yeah.
And you can, if you like boat, or I'm not, I did not, I went paddle boating, but I'm sure the gym or the sports center has other options available. So if you like kayaking or simply boating, I think there are plenty of options. That you can rent a boat. I'm pretty sure you don't have to pay, and you can take it, find your own way to transport that, and go paddle boating. That's one of my favorite things. That used to be one of my favorite things one of the summers. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it in January.
But the sun's out. We can do anything. It's uncommon for us. All right. Well, thank you for all your answers, guys. I do want to start taking some questions that our wonderful attendees have submitted. One of the first ones to come in was about traditions on campus. So, can you share some unique traditions or aspects of Reed's student community that make it stand out?
One of my favorite read traditions is the Doyle owl, which is a cement owl. It's about, what, 300 pounds? It's quite large. And it is a point of pride to be the owner of said owl. I've heard, urban legend is that it is named the Doyle owl because one, it used to be on top of Doyle. Every year there is a fight to get the owl, and people will form teams and they will have the owl compete to get the owl, which again is very large. So you have to get it in a car and drive it away, and people will um, try and sabotage other teams. So the owl is usually quite um, not pristine by the end of the fight. And one year the fight was on top of Doyle, which is one of the dorms here. Um, that is one of my favorite traditions because it's so stupid. Like there's no reason, and all you get is bragging rights, and then you have to schedule the fight the next year. I don't know who has it now because I was not here last owl fight, but it is quite a spectacle that I love.
I'm unsure who has it now because community safety got it last year. Um, and then we redistributed it to the students to fight over it again, but it was a very silly set of circumstances that the people who'd had it failed to properly publicize that it was going on. And then community safety walked up, saw it, and took it back, uh, which made one of the managers very happy because she is a former Rudy and successfully got the Doyle Owl.
20 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this tradition still exists, but this is a fun one. Back when, so we have these writing capstone course that every reader has to take. It's called CUME 110. I call writing capstone because that's what they're known as in other schools maybe. And in the previous format of Humanities 110, there was a lecture component where all the students went to a big conference room and attended lecture, and then they had their specific conferences. But um, in the beginning of the semester, every year, um, there is to be a group of sophomores or juniors who would dress up like they're in ancient Greek. Uh, um, and they'll have their robes on and they'll bless the freshmen. I thought that was pretty cute, but that doesn't happen any longer. Um, I wanted to do it very, like the first time I saw it, I really wanted to do it, but
Yeah.
I don't do it anymore.
Well, we just missed out because COVID, the lectures went online. There's still time for it to come back. Also, the other great Hume tradition is Hume Play, which auditions are happening for now, which is at the end of the spring semester, first years participate in a play that is a mockery, one could say, of the reading studied class. Not a mockery,
A
a
satire, a satire.
satire of the readings where people play the characters from them, and it is not at all serious. Um, and then the people who are in it one year, they are sophomores the next year, and they put it on.
And that actually ties back to Sajid's favorite tradition. I was a Hume play actor and director in my time at Reed. And then you have to be the betogaed sophomore or junior who provides libations on the first day of Humanities 110 lecture. So bring that back. I totally agree. And if you want to join Hume play, you can play such great roles as Socrates, the people who put Socrates to death, Livy, many acting opportunities for sure. All right, let's take another question. We have about 20 minutes left. So if any of you watching have questions, go ahead and get those written out. We're going to pivot a little bit and talk about life after Reed. Someone here wants to know if you're planning on going to grad school, but whether or not that's the case, can you tell us a little bit about what you're thinking about after Reed and the resources that Reed has on offer to help you with that?
Is it a grad school question?
Grad school question, yes.
Sorry, I was answering to one of the questions.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So I'm applying to grad schools right now. Um, Very stressful, guys, I tell you.
Oh.
Uh, but the support system is very extensive. The first range of support, I think like Jojo was my first range of support. Jojo was reviewing some of my essays. So thank you, Jojo. The other supports that I received are from my professors and the career office on campus. So two of my recommenders are from the school. And I have two other recommenders who are not from the school. They're my summer advisors from other places I've worked in. But the professors who are my recommenders in the school, they are sort of primarily responsible for making sure that I apply to the right schools. And that is an essential process for anyone applying to grad schools because um, for a lot of, or at least in math, the process sort of begins by identifying what your strengths are and which schools are actually like specializing on those strengths. Like there are like a bunch of big schools which have huge departments, but there are also like these small graduate programs which also have a specialty. So my thesis advisor, Jamie, we are tight. And Jamie helped me pick up a bunch of schools, except he asked me to apply to UC Berkeley, where he has collaborators, and I was like, no, I'm not applying to Berkeley. But other than that, I applied to almost all the schools that Jamie asked me to apply to. They also help you connect with professors in the schools that they know. So that is really important because every school receives like 1,000 applications. And if you want to have at all any chance of standing out, you it's sort of expected that you'll reach out to the professor you're interested in. And that becomes really helpful, or it becomes really helpful when the professor you're working with in your school connects you to the other person you're potentially going to be working with. The career office has funds available to help you apply to schools. So say, for example, if you need to take the GRE, if you need to pay for school fees, there is a career advancement fund which is $500 for every student for every year. And anyone is allowed to use that fund for any purpose that is related to their career broadly. So if you want to go to an interview and if you need a pressed, a suit or whatever people wear to interviews, um, then the career advancement fund sort of pays for the, the suit. Or if you need transportation money to go to a conference, the career advancement fund helps you pay for that too. Yeah, these are like sort of like the two broad supports that are available in the school in terms of grad school applications. I don't know if you have anything to say, Maddie, but that's what I think.
That was a wonderfully complete answer, Sajid. So I don't have anything to add. But maybe our other panelists do.
I would just say that a lot of Reedies go to grad school. We have some crazy high statistics for PhDs. We're number one or two on some list, which Maddie probably knows better than I do. I want to offer another perspective, which is the non-grad school perspective, which is that I've always wanted to be a K through 12 teacher. And I got lucky enough to be accepted into Teach for America. So I will be moving to Boston next year to teach English as a second language. I'm very excited. I will also be getting my master's through that program, but that was not my like primary intention or like goal as I was leaving. And I think Reed was so phenomenal when I was looking at this. Like Sajid talked about the Career Center, but like the Center for Life Beyond Reed, the CLBR, this is like such a wonderful resource. Like I was meeting with Sarina, the education advisor, all the time, and like they were going over all of my essays and helping me prepare for interviews. And when I told them that I got into Teach for America, they sent me like a very excited email. So it was really also they're like putting on events. So like I was connecting with like other like graduate schools of education in the Portland area through these events that were put on by Reed or advertised by Reed. And so that was really helpful in my like search process. And also in the like actual application process, like having somebody to read my essays and be like, well, this is what they're looking for. Somebody to help me prep for my interviews. Just like so wonderful and supportive. And yeah. I can't praise CLBR enough. And it's also so lucky that they're also a resource for alumni as long as we exist. So I can have CLBR help me out like 30 years down the road, and they will still like help me do all the same things, which is really wonderful.
They do some incredible stuff over there, for sure. All right, let's look at the questions we have yet to answer. Thank you to our panelists for answering the questions in the chat in writing as well. Okay, looks like we've covered most of those. And we have one about research opportunities in STEM. Who would like to speak to maybe research opportunities with faculty would be a good way to tackle that one?
So I'm sure Jojo could talk more about like specifically what it's like to do research with a professor. But I know at least for STEM wise, uh, it's relatively easy to get like access to at least being able to do it even as a non-STEM major. I took Intro to Chemistry, which is a one semester course, have not touched it since, but because I am not the most STEM inclined person. But after that, the professor was like, congrats, you've all taken this course. You can now apply to be part of my research group and just like even if you're not trying to be a chemistry major or like go into a chemistry field, you could still apply to do it because you've worked with this professor through taking their class. Um, so I don't know if that's like necessarily like how easy it is, but it's very accessible. And you don't need to like be within the discipline in order to gain that accessibility.
I
Yeah,
think
I know that. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sajid. You've probably done research in STEM. Oh, okay. I was going to say that I do research in social sciences, and that was as easy as my professor emailed me or emailed all of the linguistics majors and said, hey, I'm doing this research. apply if you want. And I say, okay. And I applied and then I got it. I know that you can get started with research, and this is true for like all departments, like as early as your first year. There's another person who works in the admissions office. And so you'll be able to reach her through the same email that we'll give you at the end. But she's a neuroscience major, and she was working with a professor the second semester freshman year. And I think the way that that worked for her was like her professor was talking about her research. She went up to the professor and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in your research." And the professor said, "Great, apply to be my research advisor." I think the really great advantage of Reed not being a super large university is that all research opportunities are for undergraduate students. Like we have like 4 grad students on campus, and they're in the master's in liberal arts, so they're not competing for the same research positions that all of us are, and so that means that there's all of the opportunities are open to us and relatively easy to get.
Awesome. Um, Sajid, did you want to answer about research opportunities?
Um, sure. So I did research for all 3 years of school I've been here. So the first summer I did stats research with one of my stats professor, and the process was exactly how Jojo described it. I reached out to the professor. I showed him, hey, very cool data set. I found this very cool data set, and I have these questions about this data set. Do you want to take a look? And we um, we had a meeting and we discussed some of the potential things that we could do with the data set. And then I reached out to the Office of Institutional Diversity, and they have a fund set aside called the Social Justice Fund, and it's about $4,000, and plus it also covers your meals and boarding. And so that in monetary value, that amounts to about 6,500. So it's a pretty good amount. And the research was completely funded by the institution or the Office of Institutional Diversity. And the sort of the core of the process was like you have to perform research during summer. You don't cannot have any other paid jobs, but as a consequence of this, you get to present your research at the end of summer during the summer research poster session. And I also got to present the research in front of the Board of Trustees. Um, be- some of the results that we found was pretty significant, and we were really happy about it. So I had 2 advisors. One advisor was my stats professor, and the other advisor was in the Office of Institutional Diversity. So I worked through some of the data sets that are available in terms of, or not in terms of the data sets are called police brutality data sets. They were looking into police killings in around the United States for the last 8 years. And my analysis sort of touched on some of the existing claims about racial bias in the use of police force. It's been a while since I've done that research, but some of it is still very distinct in my memory. But to give a bit more information about research available in STEM, the overall structure is, as Jojo said, is to support undergraduate students. There are department-specific funds available to support research. There is also the president's summer research fellowship, which covers an independent project. So if you have a project designed for yourself, you found an advisor who's willing to look over your project, and it's a compelling enough project that has a creative enterprise um, that gets funded by the school with the president's summer fellowship. There's the summer research grant, which is also a wonderful option. So say, for example, if you do not or did not get into any of the research programs on campus, but you still have another research program lined up, but they don't have a payment scheme or they don't like pay as much. The school promises to cover for that as well. And lastly, there is one research fund available for students who are exclusively interested in economics. So it's through the econ department, and they have funds set aside for summer interns as well. So I think it's a pretty broad array of opportunities on campus in terms of research, and the money completely goes to funding the students or undergraduate students. So it turns out to be a great opportunity, and at least like a lot of students are really encouraged to apply for these opportunities because as long as you're interested and you have a vision for what you want to do, it's pretty much guaranteed that you'll get funding.
Yeah, we generally say that 90% of students' research proposals end up being funded. Personally, I was a French literature major at Reed and I got a grant to travel for my thesis research. So if my book-focused research could necessitate a trip to French Polynesia, I think anybody can find a way to get funding for their research on campus. And just to tie together a few of the last things that we talked about, this access to research with faculty is really a distinguishing feature of Reed. It is more common in STEM, I'd say, partly because if you have a neuroscience lab or a chemistry lab, you can hire a lot more students if you're a professor at Reed than maybe a linguistics professor might hire, just to speak off the cuff. So those opportunities tend to be very highly available starting as early as freshman year for our students. And that's all part of why so many Reedies go on to PhDs. We do see about a quarter going directly into graduate school from Reed, and about 70% of Reedies will pursue some kind of graduate study after graduating from Reed. I'm part of that statistic. So across the disciplines, we come in at about third or fourth in the country for PhD production after schools like MIT and Caltech. So if you're interested in research, there's almost no better place that you could start out. Now, we only have about 6 minutes left. I appreciate everyone submitting questions. We've gotten a couple of questions about kind of school life balance. So I'd love to devote a few minutes to that in the time we have remaining. Obviously, we talk a lot about Reed being rigorous and challenging and all the cool things that you guys have going on. But can you talk a little bit about the ways that you take care of yourself and manage to have a life in addition to your education here?
I saw another Jojo in the chat ask this question, so I
Jojo
feel
to Jojo, yeah.
I I was about to respond too. I think I mentioned earlier that I spend a lot of time knitting, which is one of my favorite ways to relax, but also to connect with other readies. Like I mentioned, I'm in the Fiber Arts Club, which is run by another linguistics major. And so we just go and chat and knit. I think also we as readies, like we're all living, most of us are living on campus. We're spending a lot of time to around each other. We're bumping into each other all the time. Like it's really hard for me now to go to Commons, our dining hall, and not see somebody that I know. So if you relax by like hanging out with friends and chatting and just like, you know, doing that kind of thing. It is so easy to do that here. And if you're the kind of person who relaxes by just like being alone, I have my introverted moments where I just knit in bed alone. Like that is also our residence halls are like such a welcoming place to do that. It's not like I ever dread going back to my dorm because it's, a nice building. And so those are the ways that I like to sort of have my balance. I would also say one thing that is unique about Reed is that it has a canyon going right through the middle of it. And I have been lucky enough to live on the north side of the canyon the entire time I've been here at Reed, and all of the academic buildings are on the south side of the canyon, which means that I have to physically cross a bridge every time I go to class or go to my dorm, which means that there's like literally a physical separation between my like school life, work life, and my home life, which is also really nice to have that like I can set that boundary for myself, like I will not do any work on this side of the bridge. And it sounds kind of silly, but that also really works well for me.
Um, I'll I'll talk about something that people like to do off campus. I like to boulder, and it's one of the activities that I really enjoy doing, and it's also very relaxing because um, I don't know, you're not spending too much time thinking, just just climbing. But in general, this is a very pleasant activity that you can do with friends, and it's almost like problem solving, but you're doing it on spot, and you're like collaborating with your friends, and it seems like such a nice opportunity to actually be active and also be chatting with your friends. There are a bunch of good bouldering gyms around campus. The ones that most readies go to is called Circuit, and that gym is pretty popular, and they have nice cushions. But more importantly, I think the gym sort of like brings out this like very outdoorsy spirit within people, and I think that's a good social connector. So you get to meet people you did not know before, and I think that's relaxing to me. I think it's a way to engage with people without like talking about school or without um, thinking about anything related to classes.
Spencer, anything to add?
Yeah, I just say to like wrap up, especially because one of the questions is about like workload, which is a lot of us end up being like, man, I need to both be social and get work done. So I'm gonna go get coffee with my friends and write a paper together. Or I'll do a problem set while they do their readings. And we'll distract each other occasionally, but then we'll get it done. And it's kind of doing both at the same time, which I have a friend we do that like every week. We get together and we're like, cool, we're gonna go work on our stuff. And then when we're done, or we'll call it quits at like 8, and then we'll go watch a silly TV show together, or make dessert, or do something fun and like life balancey-ish, because sometimes there's a lot of work and some days there's not. But having just like a person there, and basically that's with pretty much everyone I read, is that there's always like someone around to be like, oh, this was a really stressful paper, but man, now it's done. Time to go like sit in the canyon and talk to birds. I don't know. My boss is an avid bird watcher, so
Endless opportunities for that. But I think you hit on something really key there, Spencer, that there is a lot of joy and fun that readies find in their work, and being able to work on it together and share notes across very different academic interests and stuff like that. But of course, there's also plenty of time to pursue things that only please you, or that only make you feel good, to get off campus and go thrifting and all the fun stuff that college students do. I think it can also be helpful to think about how your time looks different when you're in college. If you're living on campus, you've saved a lot of time commuting, shopping, making meals, all that stuff. And you're in class for fewer hours typically as a college student than you are as a high school student. So while it might sound like these folks have a lot going on, and they do, they're also saving time that a lot of high school students can't give up, right? We are at time, so I think we're not going to be able to take any more questions, but I would love for our student workers to let us know how you can keep in touch if you have more questions for current Read students. Um, Anybody want to volunteer for the spiel?
I mean, if you don't want to talk to linguists or math majors, we have an email called writerready@read.edu, which thank you, Jojo, for throwing in the chat. And basically, you can be like, hey, I have a question about, I don't know, insert topic, underwater basket weaving. And then then someone with that like experience will respond and be like, hey, thank you for reaching out. Here's what I can tell you. Or if you're like, I have questions about like what is the student union? What happens there? Uh, Anybody can respond, and we get back to those pretty quickly. So Writer Read is a really good resource for you to ask us questions.
Um,
Yeah, and also you're welcome to like send stuff too. I know I do this thing. Every time I interview someone or I send a postcard, I usually add a math problem at the end, and I ask them to send me a solution. They have to come on.
and
It's
that's how we decide if you get admitted now.
So if you have like something interesting that you want to share with the admissions office, or if you have any recommendation for anything, we love to chat with prospies or people who are interested in the school. So send us email, and it doesn't have to be like any linguistics or math related like questions. We have a broad variety of interns in the office, and we come from all sorts of majors and all sorts of interests. So we are happy to answer questions of any field of any type.
I also just want to add, if you have the chance to visit Reed, that's another really great thing to do. Like I said, like I chose to go to Reed after visiting. I realized that a lot of you might not be able to do that based on where you live or your transportation options. But if you do have the chance, come visit us, meet us in person, talk to some other Reedies. If you visit, you will also have the chance to go to classes, sit in on some classes so you can really see what that classroom environment is like, talk to professors as well, even do an overnight stay to see what one of the dorms is like. Um, all of those are available if you come visit, so highly recommend.
I couldn't agree more, Jojo. And thank you, Spencer, Sajid, and Jojo, for all of your excellent answers in this panel. This has been really fun. And thank you, all of you who attended, for your attention and for your great questions. I hope this has been helpful. But if there's anything left on your mind, or you come up with a question as soon as you hang up, please don't hesitate to keep in touch with us. You have some great resources for how to reach our numerous student workers, and you all have an admission counselor who's always happy to hear from you as well. With that, I'm going to end our Readies Reflect for this evening, and we're wishing you all the best for your college search, for the big decisions ahead of you, and for this super exciting time. Please keep in touch, and thanks for being here. Thanks, everybody. Bye.